Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and obviously E3 is happening, at least at the time I'm recording this, and last year I did a little bit of coverage on it, my thoughts and opinions on some of, specifically Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo's conferences. I thought this year it might be kind of fun to, in addition to doing those, also do some of the individual publishers and developer broadcasts like EA and Bethesda are today. So I'm going to cover both of those, but I'll do it all in one video. So I just finished watching the EA press conference. And so my thoughts on it overall, I'll just kind of go through the bullet points of the games they showed and my take on them. The first one they talked about was Titanfall 2. Now personally I never gave a shit about the first Titanfall, only because I don't care about online gameplay. That game had no single player campaign, it didn't do anything for me, so I never gave a shit. Now I know a lot of people loved it, and I'm not saying it's like a bad game or anything, it just wasn't for me. I just don't like online only gameplay. Now obviously they were aware of this issue, there are people like me and others who wanted to play a single player, and that was one of the biggest criticisms of that first game. So the second game is going to have a single player campaign, which is nice. Now what the caliber of that will be is hard to say, but I'm on the record now, I'm very much willing to give it a shot when it actually comes forth. Unlike the previous one, which was an Xbox One/360 and PC, I guess, exclusive, this one will be opened up to the PlayStation 4. I've seen a lot of people reacting to that very negatively. Oh, it should have stayed an exclusive, or why don't they bring Titanfall 1 around? The thing is, even before Titanfall 1 was released, a lot of people working at EA already let it slip that if we do a sequel, it will be on the PS4. That is not a shocker. That's old news. I mean, it's official now, but you know, whatever. So anyway, yeah, Titanfall 2 is coming, and I look forward to checking it out eventually. Easily the biggest shocker of the whole thing. It was like Shenmue 3 being announced all over again. There's gonna be another Madden game. Holy shit! Madden 17. I don't care. I don't give a fuck about sports games in general. So I realize that EA makes a crap ton of money from their sports games. They're like the premier people for it, but personally, I don't care. Mass Effect Andromeda. This is a kind of a nice one. I think this one was somewhat spoiled ahead of time, that we knew this was going to be a thing. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to checking that out eventually. Unfortunately, I never really got around to playing the other Mass Effect games, but I want to. And this will be a good motivator to finally do that, because those games are pretty highly regarded, except for like the ending of the third. But we'll see. I look forward to seeing how that plays out. They then talked about a lot of the DLC they'll be doing for various games, and how like, oh, you have games already, and we want to support those games. So here's some of the stuff we're putting out for Star Wars, and we're doing all these other things. I guess that's good, but essentially what it was just a commercial for, you know, hey, we got DLC, so go buy it. None of which I will actually be doing personally. They're also doing this charity thing. I didn't catch much of that, but you know, good on them. I know EA, they can't possibly like having such a negative reputation. I mean, they're so synonymous with being the most hated company in video games, that it's good for them to, you know, do stuff like that to, I guess, help correct their image. I mean, that's a tough act, man, because you have that image, but then you follow it up with things like the next FIFA game, which is like, I get it, they make all their money from the sports games. They make tons of money from the sports games. But that must suck for them, because they have to advertise it, but at the same time, most of the people who are sitting there watching E3 probably don't care about it. I certainly did not care about the whole FIFA thing. They went on about the FIFA game for a long time. Like, it was like, they took like at least 10 minutes out of that hour just for that one game. Now, I'll give them some credit. They tried to make that exciting. You know, they had their whole, like, part of the show was in Los Angeles, part of it was in London thing. In London, the guy who was hosting it was Peter Moore, you know, the guy who killed Shenmue originally, and killed the Dreamcast, sort of. But anyway, so he was the one hosting that, and, you know, they, of course, I'm an American, so football/soccer has never been really of any real interest to me. But I was talking to some of my friends in Europe and being like, you know, are you guys reacting with excitement to this whole FIFA thing? Some said yes, some said no. But basically, yeah, like just a new FIFA game, but it's going to have this like campaign mode, I guess, where you follow like the story of one particular player. I don't remember his name, I apologize. In addition to actually having, you know, a football/soccer game. So, yeah, I guess they're trying to spice it up and make it more exciting, but yeah, it really didn't do anything for me, but that's just me personally. They then started talking about a new program called EA Originals, which reminded me of a lot of like Microsoft's like ID at Xbox program, which is basically like, we're a big company, we got a bunch of money, we want to fix our reputation a little bit, we want indies to work with us, so we're going to start funding indie games, which is basically what this is. And then they showed one game, which is a game called Fe, F-E. It looked like a neat game. I didn't get that much information out of it because I think they intentionally wanted to keep it kind of vague as to what the game is. So I hope that it's not just, you know, a digital game. I would like to check it out. I hope it's a physical game. I hope EA at least does some sort of like physical game collection of all their, you know, these upcoming indie games if this program is successful for them. And I wish them well with that, because I think that is one of those things where they try to improve their image a little bit and they try to get just more quality and a bigger variety of games out, because I'm sure there has to be people working at EA who, like I said before, hate the fact that they have to come out there and present nothing but sports games for like half of a show. I'm sure they would love to be better known as a quality, like indie-friendly developer, as opposed to just like, hey, it's those guys who make the same game every single year. That's got to kind of suck for them. Yeah, so hopefully this is a step in that right direction. So Faye looks cool. I look forward to seeing more about it. Then they talked about the one that would have excited me the most. Star Wars stuff, very sadly, and I maintain this is, until proven otherwise, this is still shit news. Back when Lucas sold Star Wars over to Disney, they handed the Star Wars game license over to EA, which is like, ugh. And the first Battlefront proved exactly as to why. That's just a painful decision, because microtransactions, DLC galore, no worthwhile single-player campaign, and 4 levels, woo! So yeah, that's, I did not like the Battlefront EA game that they made, and they seem to be aware of it. They seem to be aware that a lot of people had issues with that particular game, and so they didn't show us much in the way of specifics. They basically talked about 3 games very generically. They said, yes, there's another Star Wars Battlefront game. It's going to make the fixes you guys wanted, including a more robust single player, which I hope is true. Because if you guys don't know, the first 2 Star Wars Battlefront games, like, you know, over a decade ago on the original Xbox, 2 of my favorite games ever, especially the second one. It's amazing. And so the third one was the one I'd been waiting for almost as long as I've been waiting for another Shenmue game. And when they finally got it, but it was like EA that was doing it, I was just like, because I knew it would suck. I knew it would be very disappointing. I knew it was going to be something I wouldn't have any interest in. And ultimately, I was right. So hopefully they're going to fix a lot of that with the next one. They then talked about 2 more Star Wars games, but that don't even have titles yet. So they were both described as action adventure games, being worked on by 2 different developers. So that's all the information we have. They then showed like this trailer, basically, of like people talking about, we understand how people want more out of their Star Wars games, and we want to give them more. You know, just vague, almost horoscope-like answers that are generic and could apply to anything. Yeah, they get it. We want Star Wars games that are good. I'm glad they got that memo. So then they finished the whole presentation off with just more information on Battlefield 1. Personally, I've never really been a Battlefield fan. I have to give them credit, though. I like the idea that they didn't go into like in the far future with laser guns and everything. Like, I didn't need that. I actually like the idea that they're doing this whole World War I thing. Obviously, I haven't played it yet, but I'm curious to see how that plays out. If it has like a worthwhile single-player campaign, I would be all over that shit. Just because you don't see World War I games that often, and the ones you do are usually shit. But I'll give them a chance. I would definitely give them a chance. I think that could be really a lot of fun if done correctly. If it's an online-only thing, then I'm out. I don't care. But yeah, so that was, in a nutshell, that was EA's presentation. It wasn't anything really exciting. There was nothing really surprising in there. It's a lot of like, all right, you have a lot to prove just because you're EA and you have a bad reputation. But I'm open-minded. I'm going to give you a shot to fix a lot of things if that's the direction you want to go. So anyway, now I'm going to basically sit around and wait till the Bethesda presentation comes up, and then I'll report back. So I just finished watching the Bethesda conference, and so I obviously want to continue a little bit of coverage here. So now the first thing that Bethesda talked about was Quake. Now that's really cool, all right, so here's the thing. I really liked Quake 4, and I know that one's sometimes considered like the black sheep one, but I really liked that game. Now, largely because I just played the single-player side of things. I didn't play it online. I played it years after it was relevant. I don't actually remember distinctly playing any of the earlier Quake games, which I know, shame on me, because Quake 3 was a big Dreamcast game and everything. But Yeah, no, it's cool to see Quake make a comeback. However, I'm a little bit concerned about the viability of it having a single-player mode. I don't recall them ever mentioning that even once. Largely everything they talked about it, largely everything they said about it was online focused. So I'm getting the sense that it's not going to be a game I'm going to be particularly interested in, which that makes me sad, but it is what it is. The next thing they started talking about was Elder Scrolls Legends, which I believe is it's like a card game like Magic the Gathering. Definitely not something that even remotely interests me. I know I got friends who love that type of shit, Magic the Gathering and all that stuff. I just never understood that. That was never something that was for me. But if you like Elder Scrolls and you like the Magic the Gathering type of card games, especially the digital interpretations, I'm sure that'll be right up your alley. Then they did a big update about Fallout 4. They showed a lot of mods that are coming up, a lot of expansions and upgrades and DLC kits, and yeah, basically just a bunch of updates that are going to be happening for that game. They're going to have creator kits, I believe, come out in July 2016, so that people can expand the game even further, which is, it's really cool that Bethesda, as far as I'm aware, I think they're like the one publisher that not only is cool with modding, they actually encourage it, even on consoles, which is pretty amazing. So kudos to them for that. And then that kind of goes into the next thing, which they really snuck this one in there. I think this was meant to be like their big surprise, but it was kind of, somewhat, it kind of leaked beforehand. Was Skyrim being remastered for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. They didn't even talk about this. Like right after they finished their Fallout presentation, the guy's like, "Oh, by the way, we've been working on something. Here you go." And it was like this trailer for the game, showing that it was remastered and everything. They didn't mention anything specific about it because as soon as the trailer was over, they just moved on to the next subject, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the one thing, this is first impression, so I haven't gone back and I haven't read anything and I haven't rewatched the trailer or anything, but I'm pretty sure the trailer also indicated that Skyrim Remastered for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 would support mods, and presumably all the DLC, the 3 major expansions, would all be built right in, which I think is cool as shit. As someone who makes a show called Skyrim for Pimps on a different channel, that could be a huge saver for us, make our jobs a hell of a lot easier, so that would be nice. But anyway, I think that was, like, to me, I think might have been potentially the most exciting announcement until literally the next one, Prey. Now, Prey, I don't recall anybody mentioning that Prey was potentially going to be revealed here. Prey was a game for the Xbox 360 and I believe also the PlayStation 3 early on in the 7th gen that I fucking loved. I absolutely loved that damn game. And I was always sad that it never got a sequel. Prey 2 was in development for a while, but then just kind of disappeared. This game, however, looks more like some sort of reimagining of the franchise. I don't think it has anything to do with the first one. Unfortunately, again, first impressions, I got a phone call. Motherfucking asshole called me. I got a phone call during the bulk of that trailer, so I missed most of it. But I just on the face of it, I'm excited to see a new Prey game, hopefully with a worthwhile single-player campaign. They then did a couple of just like updates. They basically showed DLC packs coming out for Doom. They showed basically expansions and future updates for Elder Scrolls Online. Doom I haven't tried yet, although I've heard phenomenal things. Elder Scrolls Online I genuinely don't care about. I don't play MMOs. And then they talked about HTC Vive, specifically VR. They wanted to talk more about VR in general, and they mentioned that Fallout 4 was coming to the HTC Vive through VR, or would be playable in VR through the HTC Vive. And I'm not totally sold on the whole VR thing yet. I think it's neat conceptually. I question its practicality, but that doesn't matter right here and now. Either way, that was pretty sweet. I would certainly like to try it that way. That would be neat, but I don't know if I'd be willing to spend like the literally thousands of dollars it would take to make that happen. But nevertheless, that is a pretty cool thing. And then they capped off the show by just devoting the rest of their time to Dishonored 2. Now, the first Dishonored was never a game I got super into, but I have friends who were like super obsessed with it. It always seemed like a pretty sweet game. I don't know, I just didn't get around to it. I didn't devote as much time to it, I should say, as I probably should have, but I'm more than willing to go back and try. I started playing the 360 version. I guess I could go back and replay like the remastered PS4 version or whatever. But definitely cool that game is coming out relatively soon. I think that was the only somewhat shocker of the whole Dishonored 2 announcement. Like, we knew the game was coming, but not only did they show us a trailer and show us gameplay, they actually said, oh, by the way, this will be out in November of this year. So there you go. That's pretty sweet. So overall, I'd say Bethesda actually had a pretty strong conference. They got me pretty genuinely excited a couple of times where EA just didn't do that at all to me. So yeah, definitely awesome. I liked the way ultimately that their conference turned out. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing this for the Xbox conference, the PlayStation conference, and the Nintendo conference. The Ubisoft conference, I think I'm just going to bundle it with the Nintendo conference. I think that's what I'm going to do, because I think Nintendo's conference is probably going to be very light on content. I think they're just going to focus on like 1 or 2 games, so I'm just going to, I think it'll make sense to bundle them, but Sony and Microsoft I'll do separately. So it'll be kind of like this a little bit. But there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.